Would you like to give any message to his many supporters? Of course, they are all
Yes.
glued to
As
this.
I say, be strong, watch carefully, and don't believe everything that the government's media tells you.
When the proceedings for this confirmation wraps up after Friday, what are you expecting?
Well, obviously, I would hope that the charges won't be confirmed and we can send the former president back home. But if the prosecution managed to convince the judges that there are substantial grounds to believe that the crimes were committed, or some of the crimes were committed at any rate, then the case will be set down at a future date for trial.
All right, but they said that the appeal is not automatic, right? But of course,
Appeal of what, sorry?
The appeal of any decision from the confirmation.
On confirmation, it's not automatic. Now you have to seek leave to appeal.
Okay, but after that, of course, you are waiting for the decision and the appeal on jurisdiction.
Yes, that's true. We're waiting for that big decision. As I said, we're convinced that we have the right arguments there. I really can't see how arguments on that cannot be accepted. Notably, the decision of the pre-trial chamber, something which a lot of people have missed, is that this 127, Article 107, which talked about, is lex specialis, a special law, unique law. This is what the pre-trial chamber found. The prosecution have rejected that. So we're both in agreement to a certain degree that the pre-trial chamber got it wrong. However, the prosecution are reverting to their original arguments and saying that there is jurisdiction. So we argue that there is no ability to exercise jurisdiction, and it will be up to the appeals chamber to decide. Now, the appeals chamber doesn't normally move very quickly. They like to take their time. I don't know the reasons why it's taking so long. I would have thought that the decision would have been issued before the confirmation proceedings, but it hasn't. It doesn't look likely that it will be issued tomorrow morning, although anything's possible. We'll just have to wait and see.
Is it possible to see a scenario where charges are confirmed and then they decide there's no jurisdiction? Is that possible at any point?
Technically speaking, yes, of course it's possible.
And even if, for example, it was confirmed, we go to trial and then they issue a...
No, I don't think that we would get to trial before they'd issue the decision. It doesn't take that long. But then don't forget, the pre-trial chamber essentially gave the appeals chamber a deadline. They told them they rejected the fitness request that we'd made, and they set their case down for confirmation within 3 weeks, when we'd only just finished on the very same day, or a day before, the litigation on jurisdiction. If you remember, the prosecution asked to come back once more after we'd filed our reply and to make arguments, additional arguments to counter one of the submissions that we'd made. We objected, and the appeals chamber gave them the opportunity to make further submissions. Fair enough. But as I said, the appeals chamber were given a deadline of essentially 3 weeks to take a decision if they wanted to render their judgment before the commencement of the confirmation of charges hearing.
Okay. Now, in the final session, you do have that hearing also on detention.
Absolutely,
right?
Yes.
Yeah, but the court says, the former president has to file a separate waiver for that. Is he pending or what?
We will file a separate waiver for that, unless, of course, the appeals chamber issues its decision in the interim on interim release. Don't forget that we have already had the first review of the former president's detention. We submitted a medical report which was specifically tailored to address the risk factors under Article 58 of the Rome Statute. If you recall, that's the risk of flight, the risk of interfering with witnesses, and the risk of continued commission of crime. We said that somebody of Mr. Duterte's age and physical and mental condition was not able to satisfy those risk factors, and therefore he should be released. We supplied medical evidence to support that. The court ignored that medical evidence, so we're appealing the decision of theirs not to take into account the medical evidence that we supplied specifically for the first review on detention. The appeals chamber have to render their decision. If they don't render their decision before then, I'll basically say to the court that we're not going to oppose continued detention until we do have a judgment from the appeals chamber.
Right. So there is a possibility he won't attend that as well.
It gets a bit more difficult then, because the statute requires for the early review for a person to be present in court. It's a mandatory requirement. However, we will be considering our options nearer the date.
Which means like a video link or something.
Well, let me put it this way. I'm not telling you exactly what we're
Okay,
considering at the
all right,
moment.
all right.
However, I have severe reservations regarding the use of the video link, and I'll tell you why. When he was first brought before the court, he was jet-lagged. He'd been released from hospital. He was put in front of a television camera and told that he was before a court. He couldn't see, though he looked, quite frankly, exhausted, half asleep.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, it was sheer humiliation. They put him in a suit which wasn't even his own, a blue suit, tasteless suit. We've obviously had a barong acquired for him should he decide that he wants to come to court, and of course it's his own decision, and whatever I'm instructed to do I will do, and I will do it to the best of my ability, but I have severe reservations about letting him appear in front of a video camera.
So the barong is still there.
We have a barong.
All right. And you said it's mandatory, so different regulations and rules for a detention
Well,
hearing.
let's cross that bridge when we come to it, okay? I'm not going to litigate the matter now.
But just to be clear, interim release is still on the table
Well,
at this point.
I would hope so, because it's in front of the appeals chamber, and the appeals chamber still have to rule on that matter. They can say, okay, fine, you're wrong, Mr. KAUFMAN, the judges are absolutely right. They didn't have to take into account your specifically crafted, tailored medical evidence which addresses those risk factors.
Okay.
Or the appeals chamber could say, Mr. KAUFMAN, you've got a point here.
Right.
Let's send it back to the appeals. Let's send it back to the pre-trial chamber so that they consider this report.
It's your appeal to the decision on the review, the first review.
The first
right?
review, as I said,
It's getting confusing
maintained.
for
It's getting confusing for me as well. But I have to remember all of this stuff because
Okay.
that's my job.
Yes.
Okay, but in any event, after the first detention review,
Right.
we appealed, and we appealed against the maintenance of detention. We asked for him to be released once again because we had a special medical report prepared by experts, a neurologist and a neuropsychologist, which addressed those risk factors that I talked about. The judges felt that they didn't need to take that into account. We believe that they erred, made a mistake, and so we appealed it, and we're still awaiting that decision.
Yeah.
There's no point asking for Mr. Duterte to be released by the same pre-trial chamber when we're still waiting for an appeals decision on that.
But how would you, I mean, the court says it is because they wanted to ensure impartiality. That
Well,
they
you're
don't
mixing
want-
things up now, because the ensuring impartiality refers to the fitness proceedings. This is something else. We're talking about fitness proceedings, whether or not he's capable of giving effective instructions, whether he understands the nature of the process. Okay? So they appointed their independent expert panel after disqualifying two of the members of this panel, two neuropsychologists, one of whom was disqualified from her own medical association, and the other one a rabid social media troll. After we convinced the judges to disqualify those two neuropsychologists, they appointed someone who is pretty respectable. But having said that, his report, the report of a neurologist and the report of a forensic psychiatrist, God knows why he was instructed, but anyway, they all contradicted each other, and we asked for a hearing in order to be able to cross-examine the medical experts, something which happens in practically every case involving fitness to stand trial that I've come across in the 36 years of my practice. And I tell you, I've been practicing as a prosecutor and as defense counsel, and I've never come across a situation where medical evidence is disputed between the parties and the courts don't let the parties cross-examine the medical experts. It's unheard of.
Right. So what we're talking about is your medical assessment for his detention.
For his detention,
Yeah, for his
something
detention.
completely different,
yeah.
which involved, as I said, addressing the risk factors, whether or not he's liable to flee, whether or not he's liable to intimidate witnesses or whether or not he's liable to commit further crime. Don't forget, we're talking about an 8-year-old man who hobbles down a corridor with a cane and has severe cognitive difficulties.
But
Yes.
you can put your
Well-
name on the line that he will attend hearings even if he is allowed.
I can
to
advise him, Zen, I can advise him, but it's not my decision at the end of the day. It's the client's decision, okay? I can advise him what I think might be good for him, what might be bad for him, and then he will take his decision.
Okay, this is for attending hearings. Would you like to give any message to his many supporters? Of course, they are all
Yes.
glued to
As
this.
I say, be strong, watch carefully, and don't believe everything that the government's media tells you.